Alright, so what we have on the stand right now is we got a 1967 400 YS code GTO engine. It has casting number 670 cylinder heads on it. Now this engine came to us, it was losing oil pressure at idle, and we tore it down and all the bearings were toast in this thing. We never really did find a smoking gun, so what we're thinking is possibly when they put the engine together, because it had like literally 500 miles on it when it come to us, and so what we're thinking is somebody started this engine and forgot to put oil in it, and it just wiped out all the bearings. And so anyhow, we got the thing back to new again. We put another crank in it, had it reground, polished, resized the connecting rods with ARP rod bolts. These are factory cast rod in this engine. We put a TRW forged piston in it, or Speed Pro forged piston in it now. So it had those generic 8 valve relief cast pistons in it, which everybody that follows me knows I don't like. So anyhow, we upgraded that, which increased the compression ratio on this engine tremendously. You know, that's a little side note. Everybody thinks that the compression on these engines, because the 670 head and the factory rated these things at 10 3/4 to 1 compression. In reality, and this is the reason why NHRA super or stockers that blueprint their engines, this engine only had with the 8 valve reliefs roughly about 7.6 to 1 compression, and the reason was because the piston was way down in the bore, with the added valve reliefs, it just didn't have any compression. And the factory engines we find that come in here, most of the time the piston is usually about 25 thousandths in the hole, and and the combustion chambers generally measure bigger than what the factory rates them at 72 cc. Typically they're right around 77, 78 cc's. So the compression ratio is not 10 3/4 to 1 from the factory on these engines. It's usually right around, if you're lucky, it'll be right around 10 to 1. So anyways, we reduced the compression in this engine down to 9.5 to 1, so you can run 93 octane in this thing. Don't have to have racing gas in it. And we did our special competition valve job to this. A little bit of bowl work, just a mild blend, but you guys are not going to believe the throttle response on this thing, and it's all because of our valve job. And some of you are going to argue with me about that, and that's okay, but you guys all watch my videos and you all see how our engines rev. So we're going to fire this one up, let you listen to it. The cam's not real big in this. It's what, 224, 230, yeah, so with a 110 lobe separation. So about like a what's the tri-power camshaft? Those are 214, 224. One up above that is a Ram Air 3 cam. So like a Ram Air 3 cam is what this cam's like. It's got 480 thousandths lift, and we just broke this cam in. It's a flat tappet cam, and first engine we built in a long time with a flat tappet cam. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that this all works out real well. So what we're going to do is fire this thing up. We'll show you guys the throttle response on this thing, and sorry about the long-winded explanation, but you know what, some guys want to hear the explanation, other guys don't. And for you guys that don't, we're going to fire this thing up. We'll let it idle. We're going to wrap on the throttle a couple of times. I'll stand back here behind the exhaust, let you guys hear it. I'll have Brandon bring it up to 2,000 RPM, and then idle, and then crack this thing, and watch the tack whenever I walk around to the tack site and let you guys see how fast this thing revs. But this is pretty much a bone stock engine that we built for this customer. As you can see too, it's got a quadrajet carburetor on it as well. So it's a factory carburetor, factory intake. Still has stamped steel rockers in it, does not have a roller rocker. And yes, I know it's got a flex plate on it, so it doesn't have all the weight of the torque converter. But even so, our engines still, even with all the weight on them, rev really quick. drive-in idle. That was 2,000 RPM. No, whenever you were bringing it up, what was... Yeah, so hold it at 2,000 there for a minute. That's about cruising RPM for most cars. Alright, go ahead and track it again. Now watch the tachometer on this thing whenever I walk around over here. This got a factory balancer on it because it is a factory original car. It's an AC car, as you can see by the bracket. Almost 5,000 RPM. The idle's starting to speed up on this thing because the engine's loosening up a little bit since we've been running it. It'll idle about 800, 750, 800 whenever we got it in the car. Oil pressure's good at idle. Engine's about 165 degrees.